Hi, this is Dr. Ralph Wilson with Web Marketing Today. I'm in San Jose at the Search Engine Strategies Conference with Rebecca Lieb, an expert in all things internet marketing. Rebecca, one of the themes that you've been educating people on is content, creating content. A lot of small businesses struggle with how do we pay for advertising to even get noticed. And one of the things I'm hearing from you as we were preparing for this interview is that we ought to be, instead of buying media, we ought to be creating it.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
I like to call it roll your own media. You know, you can buy a little tiny banner ad or a little tiny search ad on somebody else's website or somebody else's search engine in which what you say or do is very limited by space and other constraints. Or you can build that media out and build it out as richly as you want, with text, with words, with images, with video, at very little to almost no cost. We've seen this proliferation of social media platforms, blogs, of Facebook, of Twitter, of YouTube, Flickr. You aggregate all of these things into a content strategy, and you can create a wealth of content that informs, entertains, engages about your brand, your product, or your service at little to no cost. Nothing, of course, is cost-free. There's going to be
there's time involved to develop it.
There's going to be time and skills to develop it,
Right.
but certainly at dramatically less cost than your traditional media buy.
Now, for a small business to think of all of the different places to put media and all the things you can do is a little bit overwhelming. But you used the word content strategy. So
content strategy,
what kind of strategy could you develop to start from, not creating media to move in somewhere in that direction?
Well, you need to think about your goals and define your goals, which is the first thing that you would do if you were buying media. It's really the same process, but then rather than thinking what can you buy around that process, you think what can you create around that process. Maybe you're a decorator or a caterer or do something very visually oriented. You might want to gravitate more towards the Flickrs and the YouTubes than somebody that does something very process oriented or with a high educational selling curve, in which case you'd want to be more text oriented and build that out in something like a website or a blog. You can also be very engaging and continually update content and come off as something of an authority in your field. You can do this on a blog, you can do this on Twitter, you can do this by creating a Facebook group. The possibilities for creating all this content are nearly limitless.
Do I have to do everything?
No, you probably shouldn't do everything. It's generally a bad idea to do to bite off more than you can chew, and not everything is going to be appropriate for everybody.
I think partly it depends on what skills you have within your own company.
Exactly, and who's got those skills?
Yeah.
You might find out you've got a great amateur photographer sitting over there in accounting. Who knew?
Yeah, or video capability.
Exactly, and these
or
things
writers.
Are cheaper and cheaper to do. Heck, when I met you, Ralph, you weren't doing video,
No,
were
I wasn't.
you? And now you've got this professional setup.
Yeah. So creating content rather than buying it sounds like my kind of audience, which is small to medium businesses.
Yeah, and here we are at a search conference. If you're creating your own content, you can put your own keywords into that content and make sure that they're highly relevant to your business and reflect the search terms that people are looking for your business, your products, your services for. And not completely in all cases eliminate the need to advertise, but certainly cut down on it very drastically.
So start by figuring out what my goals are.
What your goals are.
And then what my skills, capabilities are. And then figure out some steps to get to my goals. Don't try to do it all at once.
Think like an editor, which is one of my favorite things to say because I'm an editor.
Because you're an editor, yeah.
You've got to come up with a calendar for creating new content. You've got to stick to it. You've got to think of new ideas for stories and for angles. Maybe it's announcing new products. Maybe it's just talking about developments in the industry as a subject matter expert.
For the non-editors out there, it means organizing yourself and programming yourself so the stuff actually gets done, among other things.
You'd have to do that with an ad campaign too,
That's
right?
true. That's true.
This can be a much more economical approach in times that demand a bit of economy, don't you think?
I think so. Hey, thanks so much for talking about this with us. Tell me about your business and what you do.
Thanks, Ralph. I have just opened up a U.S. office for e-consultancy, the largest provider of interactive and digital marketing best practices, news, information, research, training, and events in the UK. And we intend to dominate the US very shortly as well. And people can take a look at what we offer on econsultancy.com.
That's great. Thanks so much, Rebecca. This is Ralph Wilson with Web Marketing Today.